I'm originally from East London. I came to Cape Town to finish off my matric. So when I was in high school, I was a student learner for the then known as Township Debating League. It's a project of Ubunye. And then when I came to UCT, I was their student volunteer, so I would go out to coach debating to high school learners in the townships. I would also adjudicate in their tournaments. And then in my second year, I joined their committee as their human resource manager. And then on my third year, I was their logistics manager. But then I also joined SIA, the South African Institute of International Affairs, and I acted as their student delegate. So I would coach high school learners on how to write up research documents. I would also provide training in regards to Model United Nations debates, and I also went to their Young Leaders Conference in Johannesburg.
I'm originally from Durban. I decided to study medicine in my high school career. It helps you to see people in ways that you can never imagine seeing them before. It gives you just so much experience about the world around you as well, and the different interplays between society and healthcare as well. This year I was part of the Surgical Society, which is a society on campus, on medical campus, that aims to promote surgery as a career to undergraduate students. And I was fortunate to be on the committee for that this year, heading the outreach portfolio. I started 2 projects in that portfolio, the Health Aid for Refugees project and the Cedarburg Clinic.
So I'm from Durban. I grew up, I went to school at Kearsley College. During grade 11, I realized that architecture wasn't for me. So I took the closest in engineering to architecture, which was civil engineering, and that turned out to be the right decision. I'm the chairperson of the EBE Student Council, and currently involved in starting up an initiative called BYG. EBE Student Council, I was involved in just basically running the faculty in interest in students' problems and just trying to make the faculty better. It regards more with academic problems and issues. And then during the year in EBE Student Council, we held panel discussions around transformation. And one of the major issues that we found, and is currently facing the universities university-wide, is the number of South African black academics. And as a result, after leaving office, we have begun starting an initiative called BYG, which is Black, Young and Gifted. And this aims to increase the number of South African black academics.
I come from a background of impoverishment, one would say. So I went to a school in the township known as Sinetemba Senior Secondary School, and it's not a multiracial school or anything. So being in a space with various races was a new experience to me. But I think one thing that stood out was the fact that when I came here, my sort of impoverishment suddenly became apparent. It was clear that I come from a poor background, and when I came to UCT, I got to realize that by not having a laptop at the beginning of my first year, and I had to struggle with adjusting to how to use a computer and getting done with assignments. Because I remember there was this other guy, he was doing very well in sociology. So we asked how he does it. And then he said, well, the UCT library has more than 1 million books, so try and work that out. So I recall going to the library and I was like, where do I start? How do I find a book here? I didn't know anything about how the UCT library worked. I overcame my academic challenges by continuously studying and basically crying out when I don't understand something.
Some of the challenges with studying medicine, in my opinion, apart from all the hard work, is just at a very young age we're thrown into the world, and we are asked to experience things that perhaps we wouldn't experience until we are much older, and that is very challenging, but at the same time it's very rewarding. You get to see people at their best and at their worst, and you learn so much about it, it's a wonderful experience. In terms of the faculty, there aren't very many challenges. Medicine's run very well, it's very organized, and there's a lot of support for the students as well.
There's several challenges, but I mean the major thing is just making a decision without having your emotion in it. That's I think the most important lesson that I've learned. The biggest challenge is that students will always come at you with a side of a story, and you have to always resolve conflict among students, especially this year. And I think when you look at both sides of the story and don't act on impulse and actually take time to think and leave your emotion out, that's when you can make the best decisions.
Going into student leadership, I wanted to create a space where students, one, would realize that the challenges they're subject to are not only challenges they face alone. And when you get here, you realize that there are all these resources that you could use and better your academics. But I think the problem is, one, knowing about those resources was a challenge. And second of all, I felt as though there were times where it would have been nice to have someone representing me. I went into student leadership basically wanting to represent poor students who find themselves in the same situation where I was in.
As a student, you have a great capacity for making a change in the world. And that was one of the reasons why I went into leadership, because in medicine you see all the problems that are out there and you can just sit back and let it go. But if you don't take a role and take a stand fighting these problems, then no one else is going to.
Student leadership for me was a bit of a motivation from my cousin, who was previously in SRC in 2009, and he's motivated me saying, you can't go through university just focusing on academics, you have to try something different. And in school I had leadership abilities and I was passionate about leadership and just helping people in that regards, and that's motivated me to take up this position at university.
My theory is that our degrees cannot teach us what we need, all that we need in order to be able to adjust to the labor market. And I think student leadership allows you to acquire all the other skills that, one, your academics may not be able to offer. I think student leadership is a great platform to try and put whatever skills you gain into practice before you even go into the real world.
I think that leadership in university is very similar to leadership in the real world, and it just gives people a nice foundation to build on when they go into the world, so that they can take roles in leadership in the rest of the world as well. I don't think there's very much a difference, but I definitely think that it provides you with the skills to go forward.
I've dealt a lot with people during my time in office in the EB Student Council, and that will go well in my career path as a civil engineer, in that we have to deal with a lot of clients face to face with regards to projects, whether it be on site or during consulting. And in order to give the best possible design and the design that the client wants, you have to understand the client, and the people skills I've developed this year will go well in helping me.
There was an NGO that we used as our primary charity organization this year. So we would have students donate clothes, and then we would send them to the organization. So what we're doing at the moment with Forest Hill is that we're having a food and clothes drive, because we realized that when students have to leave and go home, they throw away a lot of food, and there's some clothes that they wouldn't want to take back with them, so they don't know what to do with all these items. We're sending it to the Unako Children's Home. It's in Gugulethu, an informal settlement area known as Barcelona. They cater to orphans, most of whom are HIV positive.
I think that for me, the greatest achievement was making a difference in people's lives with the projects that I ran. So with the Health Aid for Refugee project, this is a project that I started in collaboration with the Cape Town Refugee Centre. And what we do is we go to the refugee centre and we provide the refugees there with health education and promotion. Because so often we find that refugees in particular, they don't have access to healthcare. There's issues with xenophobia. Other achievements, well, I mean, starting the Cedarburg Clinic as well has been a wonderful experience. So we've gone into the Cedarburg wine farm, and we're starting a clinic there for the 85 or so health farm workers on that farm. I entered the Health Aid for Refugee project into a international competition, or called the Students Projects in Health competition, and it actually won that.
For me, this year was quite an interesting year. The biggest, I think, the turning point and the one that resonates most is the Roads Must Fall statue. When the statue was removed this year during the Roads Must Fall campaign, it just brought about this transformation debate, which wasn't there before in the universities, and it gave students the voice that they never had or they've forgotten.
The greatest piece of advice I received from my predecessor, and that's something I also passed on to my successor, is that when we get into student leadership, we often think about accountability to students. Accountability to your committee is also as important, because what's happened on campus this year is that we've seen a lack of accountability to committees.
For me, I think towards other student leaders, I would just say it's important to have a team and a strong team, and especially in council this year, I couldn't have done it without such a fantastic team. And in order to do that, you need to make sure that the people around you are not only happy, but they are treated as like family more than just as a team.
You can be a leader academically, you can be a leader in the classroom, leader in sport, a leader in society. And so people need to figure out what sort of leader they are and what sort of leader they want to be.